Josh Wolfe wasn't your average ghost hunter. He didn't just fumble around with EMF detectors and shout into empty hallways for clout. No, Josh curated dread. His YouTube channel, Spirit Snare, had over 1.8 million subscribers, and he knew what they wanted. Screams, suspense, and the occasional brush with something not quite explainable. The video that started it all was shot in an abandoned tuberculosis hospital in Kentucky. A door slammed shut on camera. Just that. Nothing else. No ghostly figures, no scratches, no screams. But the timing, the tension, the raw fear in Josh's eyes, it was genuine. And it hooked people. So, when someone sent an anonymous tip about a place called Morrow's Field, hidden deep in the pine barrens of New Jersey, Josh sniffed opportunity. The tip came with no coordinates, just a grainy map drawn in what looked like charcoal and a note that read,
"Don't go past the circle of stones. The ground remembers."
Perfect clickbait. Cameron planned a two-part special, Rituals in the Pines, Unearthing Forgotten Magic. He brought along his usual crew, Emma, tech and editing, Trey, cameraman and fellow skeptic, and a new addition, Lila, a local folklore grad student who seemed to know a little too much about things best left unknown. They hiked 6 miles in from the nearest dirt road, camping gear and equipment in tow. They found the stones at dusk, 12 in all, waist high, worn smooth by wind and rain, forming a perfect circle 30 feet across. There was something wrong about them. They weren't just old. They felt occupied. Lila kept staring into the center.
This is pre-Lenape, maybe Algonquin. But older, look at the carvings.
Josh zoomed in. Faint lines covered the inside edge of each stone, barely visible until the sun dipped low enough to hit them just right. Spirals, jagged runes, a crude eye shape repeated again and again. He stepped into the circle. They filmed for 6 hours. That night the air was too still, too cold. No birds, no insects, not even the creaking of trees, only the faint rustle of something unseen, shivering just beyond reach. Emma noted a drop in temperature that never returned to normal, even after they left the woods. Lila grew quiet, pale. She scribbled symbols into her notebook, none of them in English. Back at camp, Josh reviewed the footage, frozen when a single frame showed all 12 stones glowing faintly. Something sat in the center, a long figure, crouched, watching. He didn't mention it. The night after they uploaded the first part of the video, Josh began seeing shadows in the corners of his apartment. Just flitting shapes, but always in the corner of his eye. He passed it off as post-trip fatigue, maybe the pressure of always needing to one-up his last upload. Fans demanded more. "When's part 2?" flooded the comments. The pressure turned into insomnia, until he found footprints, bare, wet. On the bathroom tiles, the team group chat was buzzing. The first episode of Rituals in the Pines had hit 4 million views in 2 days. Comments poured in. "That shadow at 1306, you see that? Is anyone else hearing whispering around the 18-minute mark? Dude never should have stepped in the circle. Rookie move." Josh reviewed the footage. At 13:06, just as he turns to Lila asking about the carvings, there is something behind him. A blur, an elongated shape, like a person stretched too far. He rewound, frame by frame. The blur didn't just vanish between frames, it shifted, as if deliberately retreating from the lens. Something sentient, aware of being watched. His stomach knotted. Sweat slicked his palms. He paused the video, played it again, paused, rewound, over and over. Each time the figure seemed to be closer. He called Lila, no answer. He tried Emma, voicemail. Trey picked up on the fifth ring, drunk. "You see that thing too? In the video? Freaked me out. I quit, man. This shit ain't fake anymore." Josh laughed, dry and forced. "It's a glitch, lens flare." But the words tasted like ash in his mouth, because he knew. That night, while brushing his teeth, he glanced up and froze. His reflection stared back, but something was wrong. The background, it was off. A faint distortion in the air just behind his shoulder, like a heat mirage. As he leaned in, it moved, shifted slightly. Something was behind him. He spun around. Nothing. Emptiness. But the sense of being watched remained. And then the whispers started. Low, indecipherable, like a voice underwater, just behind the wall of thought. At night, he felt the weight of eyes on him, a sensation just beyond skin, like fingertips brushing down his spine. He would turn. Nothing. Just the echo of something having stepped away. Josh tried using his phone's front-facing camera like a digital mirror. He held it over his shoulder, angling it just right. The screen would flicker, and each time it did, he thought he saw something shift. A flash of gray. An eye. But when he paused to look, the frame was clean, empty, taunting. He bought mirrors, dozens of them, hung them from the ceiling, taped them to his back, watched himself from every angle. He built a rotating rig, camera lenses and angled glass circling his head, scanning 360 degrees. But still, nothing. The figure remained just out of reach, always at the edge, always behind. And the more he tried to see it, the more it seemed to notice him back. He started feeling it in his dreams, a shape just behind the curtain of sleep, breathing, reaching. He woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. His ears rang with whispered syllables in a language he didn't know but instinctively feared. He stopped sleeping entirely. He unplugged everything, slept with the lights on, slept with a knife. He stopped opening windows, nailed blankets over mirrors, and still, it came. And still, it watched. His hands trembled constantly now. His eyes were bloodshot, ringed with sleepless bruises. When he turned suddenly, a shiver of cold would pass through him, as if something had just slipped away. He began to believe it was toying with him, letting him know it was there, letting him try to see, and laughing when he failed. The anxiety was a constant pressure in his chest now. He installed cameras in every corner of his apartment, GoPros, motion sensors, a thermal cam hooked into his laptop. But every time he reviewed the footage, it was the same. He would walk into frame, pause, shudder, then look behind him. Nothing there. But just as he turned back, there'd be a flicker, something pale and elongated slipping out of view, always just behind him. He caught his own reflection once in the microwave door and thought he saw an eye blink behind him, a human eye, too wide, too bright, watching. He screamed, punched the microwave. That night, he woke to find all the cameras unplugged, their memory cards missing. In their place, one Polaroid photo on his chest. It showed him, standing in front of his bathroom mirror, and in the photo, something loomed behind him, tall, thin, faceless. He found claw marks etched into his headboard the next morning. He had no memory of them. He stopped showering, stopped answering texts. He shaved off all his hair, sure it was hiding something. He posted no new videos. Fans speculated, Rumors spread. Some said it was marketing for an ARG. Others swore the video was cursed. Josh stopped going outside. The lights in his apartment flickered constantly. Shadows danced even when he was still, and he never saw the figure directly. But he felt it. Always behind him. Always watching. He set up a rotating rig of mirrors, made a suit lined with them front and back, walked his apartment in slow circles. Nothing. Only his own haggard, sunken-eyed reflection staring back at him. Until one day he saw a shape in the mirror, briefly. A pale head tilting, observing. He ran, tripped, landed on glass. Blood pooled beneath him. He laughed, a long, broken sound. Then he started sketching, over and over, hundreds of eyes. His apartment walls became a maze of charcoal lines, ritual circles, blind spots labeled and diagrammed. He stopped sleeping in his bed, slept sitting against corners, facing outward, always watching. He drove to a hardware store one night, bought 4 parabolic mics, a dozen motion detectors, and an old-school camcorder with magnetic tape. The sales clerk asked if he was filming Bigfoot. Cameron just stared, making the clerk feel uneasy.
"Sorry, man. It was a joke?"
he said. As he left, the clerk felt an eerie presence loom behind Josh. Back in his apartment, he taped mirrors to drones, connected them to a live feed, and let them float behind him. Nothing. He made a head harness to hold a mirror directly behind his head. Every second of footage he reviewed had the same moment. A flicker, just before the mirror caught something. Then the camera would fail. He took salt baths, burned sage, contacted occult forums. A woman in Montreal sent him a charm made from crow feathers and lamb's blood. He wore it for a day before it disintegrated. The figure was closer now. He could feel breath on his neck when he slept. He dreamed of the stones, of standing in the circle, unable to move, while 100 faceless shadows stood just behind his shoulders. He ordered scalpels online. On day 37, he looked at himself in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. Bloodshot eyes, hollow cheeks, an almost childlike fear etched into the way he curled his fingers around the sink. "It wants me to look." His voice barely a whisper, not even a voice anymore. A thought made sound. So he began researching optic nerves, the connection between brain and eye, the vision signal, the blind spot. He found tales of ancient mystics pulling their eye free to glimpse into the beyond. He read an obscure passage in a 16th century grimoire that described a being who dwelleth behind, in the breath shadow of man, feeding on not seeing. He laughed for a whole hour after reading that. A few fans noticed that Spirit Snare, the YouTube channel, was live. The stream was brief. Just Josh, thin as bone, smiling with wet, red eyes. They say the third eye sees inward, but mine sees behind. He said this as he lifted a scalpel. There was no scream, only a wet pop, a sound of slicing and careful tugging. And then, with trembling hands, he lifted his own eye. It dangled like a jellyfish, trailing optic nerve. He turned it, slowly. The lens pointed behind him. The screen glitched. Viewers reported seizures, screaming. A presence felt through the screen. And then black. 3 days later, police found Josh in his apartment. Alive, unhinged, rocking back and forth in the corner, one eye missing, still attached to the optic nerve, dangling in front of a handheld mirror he had taped to the wall. On the wall above the mirror were scribbled words in blood and soot. It was right behind me. He wouldn't stop screaming after that. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't blink. The mirror stayed fixed on his dangling eye, and in its reflection, they say you can see it too. The tall figure, waiting, watching. It never left.
Right behind me. 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 Right behind me.